Greetings, Neuse Little Pod listeners. This is your host, Matt Gore, reminding you to please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast on your available podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and any other podcast app you can think of. Share our episodes on Facebook and let us know what you think with a comment or review. Now, please enjoy the show. Good evening and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast. This is an audio program talking about the backstage antics and stories of running a small-town community theater on the banks of the Neuse River located in Smithfield, North Carolina. We lovingly refer to the old girl as the Hut. We hope you enjoy. Good evening and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast. We have a special episode for you this evening. I got someone I've been trying to get on the podcast since from the beginning. I'm very happy to do that. And we have another repeat guest. I'd like to welcome to the podcast Bill Jordan. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Matt?
I am doing well, sir. And she's back for her second appearance on the Neuse Little Podcast. That's Joyce Kilpatrick-Jordan. How are you this evening, ma'am?
I'm doing fine also.
Great. We've wanted to get you in here as a couple because, you know, it just seemed like that made sense. And we also wanted to get Bill in here because he's been a part of the theater for a long time. When did you get started with the theater, Bill?
It was 1978, Showboat.
Oh, okay. And what did you do in Showboat?
I think the character was Steve. He played the husband of the Ava Gardner part. Can't remember about it.
Okay. Give us a little bit about how did you get to Neuse Little Theater? What made you step through these doors and actually try it as an actor?
I hate to say this, but it was Darius Rose. Yeah, we grew up together, went to school together, graduated together, and we're good friends after college, and gotten married, and still associated with each other. And he talked me into trying out for this part, and I said, well, I never really done any acting, but I've always tried to do things that people didn't realize that I can do, and that's one of the reasons I did it, is just to see if I could do it.
To stretch yourself, yeah. Give us a little bit about your background outside of Neuse Little Theater. You've been mayor of Smithfield at one point?
Yeah, I was mayor from 1997 to 2005, and but before that I was Parks and Recreation Director. And before that, I was a teacher and a coach and assistant principal. And so I've had I'm a retired 20-year fireman for Smithfield.
Wow.
So I've done quite a few things in my life. Just like Joyce, I was born and raised here, right across the railroad tracks there on Brogden Road. And
It sounds like you've really committed your life to serving the town of Smithfield in some capacity or another over the years.
Yeah, yep, I've done that. I know when I was Parks and Rec Director, the little theater had a chance to get the Hut here, and they put me in charge. The town put me in charge of this part of my Parks and Recreation thing, and so. We did a lot of stuff here at the beginning, and but now it's really, really blossomed. And when I got to be mayor, I made sure that we had a home. Yeah,
I bet that was a good person. That was a good person to have on your side there.
Yeah.
In Neuse Little Theater's formative years. Well, I guess not so formative. We've gotten pretty established at that point. Now, over the years, Did you meet Joyce here? I really don't know how y'all met. How'd y'all meet? Go ahead and fill me in. Give me just.
I can't give you all the details.
You give me the version you're comfortable with.
Okay, I'll give you the clean version. No, I
mean the PG-13 version.
Yeah. No, trying out for a play. It was the 1940s Radio Hour, the first one, and Darius talked me into trying out for this one. So.
Actually, it was the second one.
Oh, the second one. But there have been three?
Yes.
There have been three.
Oh, okay, yep. Okay, the second one then. And so Darius and I were sitting in the back there and waiting for our tryouts. And this cute little thing come to the door, opened it up, and I said, Darius. I said, who the hell is that? She said, don't worry about it. You can't get with her. She wouldn't have you. And I said, okay, well, you're probably right. I've been turned down before. But anyhow, we both got parts in it, and I was trying to, talk to her once in a while, but man, was she cold.
Were you cold, Joyce?
No.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was. She would have a thing to do with me. I said, well, okay, well, all right, Darius, I guess you're right. And but we kept on and we had after a cast party, a few of those that we went to and talked a little bit and this that. But our first date was New Year's Eve at Darius's in 1994.
Oh, okay.
And so we've been together ever since.
Now, what was it like from your perspective, Joyce, when you saw Bill?
It was pretty much the same. I actually had talked with Bill in his role as Park and Recs when, before I ever met him, before I ever knew who he was. I would talk to him because that was the number we were given to call when we needed trash pickup or anything done at the hut. We were told to call Park and Recs because they would take care of it. So I called and talked with him, and it found him to be very pleasant and stuff. But I was pretty surprised when he told me that that's who he was during the.
You had talked to him before,
1940s.
but you'd never seen him before.
I'd never seen him before.
Gotcha.
So I was very pleasantly surprised, and I was happy to meet him. And yeah, I mean it.
So it was a little bit like, oh, you're the man I talked to on the phone.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And like he said, I didn't straight out just say, oh, you're the man for me. It took a little bit of warming up, but we eventually got there. And like he said, once we had the first date, that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
The hut has brought more than several people together, and has broken apart one or two along the way too.
Yeah.
We are not free from, mostly these days, but we are not free from the offstage drama every once and so often. But that's back in the day stuff before social media was a thing.
Well, one of the things that I think is very interesting about the theater itself and the interactions, not only does it bring couples together, but it's so good for families. You've got husbands and wives, you've got fathers and daughters like Mita and Fred, and we got our kids
Right, they were
interested in it and appearing on stage every once in a while, and it became something that you could do as a family, and it certainly teaches young children responsibility because they're treated as adults.
Indeed. What were you about to say, Bill?
Well, I was going to say that the Wizard of Oz, that my son Will, I think he was probably about 6, and Kara, my youngest daughter, was like 4.5, and they played Will would play one of the monkeys and flying monkeys, and Kara was one of the daisies, I think, or whatever. But then later on, when Will was a teenager, he had a part in the Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay.
And so it was just a small part, but they liked it. They liked it. And
It's when you're raising a family and you've got a job and kids and activities and stuff, it's a good way to do something together as a family that's out of the house, and it's also for couples too. If they get cast in a show together, it's always just an interesting experience, watching how you might have there might be certain things that you never knew your partner or talents your partner had, But and moving on from that, so what was the next show you did after Showboat? Do you remember?
that was my one and only, until Anita Liverman. They were doing Little Abner, and she kept saying that she didn't have a husband to play one of the parts, the dancers and townspeople. she kept on and on and on and on and on and on.
Why were
and
you hesitant?
I had no desire.
Okay, well
But-
what's Little Abner? Give us a brief overview of what Little Abner's about.
Oh, it was great.
Because I don't think we've actually talked about it. We might have mentioned it, but we've never gone in depth on it.
I don't know.
I can tell you
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I watched it.
Go. Yeah.
I was not in it, but I did watch it and was involved backstage. But I mean, it was really the it was
At community college.
yeah, it was at the college, so it was a big musical, and it was.
It's based on a comic
It's the
strip.
comic strip Little
Yeah.
Abner with
Mammy Yoakum.
Mammy Yoakum and her husband and the Moonshiners and the Revenuers and they've Daisy Mae and Little Abner were a couple.
Yeah,
It's
Reggie's daughter played
Daisy Mae.
Daisy
Mae. Yeah.
It's a little podunk town, if you want to call it a town, called
Dogpatch.
Dogpatch, yeah.
USA. There's a whole song. But it's these hillbillies in raggedy clothes or whatever, but they're happy. They're happy living in this little tiny nothing town, and everybody has a caricature kind of a thing. And Daisy Mae's super gorgeous, like the perfect woman, and she's chasing after Little Abner, who has no desire at all to be involved with
He's
her.
kind of like Jethro on the Beverly Hillbillies.
And he's a big dumb lout, basically. And so through the course of the show, they end up having the Sadie Hawkins Day,
Yep.
where the women chase the men, and if you catch them, they have to marry you. And he ends up getting caught by somebody who's not Daisy Mae. And he ends up going to Washington, and they
Yep.
find out that
Right.
the tree in their yard creates something that makes, because Mammy and Pappy Yoakum are tiny little things, and he's huge. They find out it's this juice that they make from the berries in the yard. So the government tries to take them, wants to make it a military thing. So he goes to the government with them, and then what they find out is, though it makes them big and large and handsome and gorgeous, they're not interested in women. Like, they're not interested in love or anything.
Oh, so it makes them like kind of asexual.
Yeah. And so all the women are like, no, take them, change them back.
Right. Right.
And so everything goes back to normal, happily ever after. Little Abner marries Daisy, et cetera, et cetera.
So what character did you say you played, Bill?
It was just one of the townspeople that.
He was one of the hunks when they all came out. The women and the men, the men were doing the
Posing and whatnot.
posing and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and the women were all pretty.
Yeah, they're all scraggly and pitiful and lazy and layabouts, and then they go off and take this tonic or whatever, and they all turn into these big, handsome men who are all muscle and pretty.
But it takes away
But it takes out their desire.
their mojo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was muscles, but I wasn't pretty.
We can go ahead and talk about To Kill a Mockingbird if you want.
Yeah, I played Sheriff Heck Tate.
All right.
And,
So, what was that like?
Oh, it was interesting. I enjoyed. That was my first, I guess, other than Showboat, that I actually had speaking parts. And as everybody tell you, I'm not too good on speaking parts. My memory's not that good. Never has been, but I've been known to improvise and get in trouble.
You do sell yourself short because you do have a very good speaking voice. You do, and you mentioned earlier when you were talking about what you've done in your life that you were a coach at one point. And I've seen you play a coach at least once, if not more, and you play a wonderful coach. You really do.
Well, I appreciate that. My coaching record is probably 500, so yeah, that's pretty good.
But what is it? What is it about? All right, what is it about the coaching that you do that brings it that you pull into the acting?
Well, it's sometimes you have to get a little animated to get your team fired up, and I never was a real holler or yeller or whatever, but I could always get their attention, and So I just, I don't know, it came about naturally, I think, that my coaching and my talking with playing the parts and stuff that.
Well, you're very good at it. You come off very, especially when like talking to young men or something like that. I remember you in Ordinary People,
Oh, yeah.
where you played the coach in that, and you were you had scenes with Austin Parrish.
Yeah.
You were very effective at that because you were stern, but not in a negative, but not in a nurturing way, not a negative way, I guess is a better way.
Yeah, I remember that part that I think Tony Pender.
He did.
He did that, and
Yeah, he directed that.
and I kind of did. I treated Austin, the part that he played, kind of like my son. And I tell him what was what and how this is going to be, this, that, and whatsoever, and then chewed on him a little bit. But then I think that after I did all that stuff, because he wanted to quit the swimming team, I think that's what it was. And I was
And you knew he'd had some problems.
Yeah, I tried to talk him out of it, but I said, then I remember the last thing I did was I just kind of, he was sitting in the chair or on the bench, and I just, for some reason, I don't know why I did it, I just put my head on his head and kind of just, rubbed his head and told him that it'll be all right. Then, but
When Bill Jordan says it'll be all right, you definitely believe him.
yeah, I hear you.
Well, what has been some of your Joyce? What has been some of your favorite roles that you've seen Bill in? I know you're biased, but what are some of the standouts?
Whoa.
Well, I think he would tell you that he likes to play the roles that he feels like he's the stunt man,
Yeah.
which he kind of was in the first role in the 1940s Radio Hour.
When you say stunt man,
He likes to do the daredevil type stuff, and in that particular one, he hung from a rafter.
Yeah.
Like they had someone take the ladder out from under him. He was hanging there by one arm, and that sort of thing, because he can, for one thing, and he thinks that's fun. But I also think that he does underestimate himself as an actor because he's a good actor. One of my favorite roles of his, because it was so unexpected, was in Cabaret.
Oh, yeah.
He played, a large role in Cabaret, and as he would probably tell you, he's a non-singer, or at least a non-soloist.
Right.
He can sing with a group, but he doesn't want to take on a song by himself. And I understand that.
I'm the same way, Bill.
It's very frightening, but he did a very admirable job of the whole thing. I mean, I was just in awe of how well he did.
Yeah, I was the boyfriend of the
He's a reporter or writer, novelist,
something like that,
Yeah.
and
You come
Yeah.
to Berlin
Right.
and you meet Sally.
yeah.
I mean,
And she sucks you into that world.
it was a major role.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big role for him, and he doubted himself before he started it, but he did a good job with it.
Well.
And of course, in Auntie Mame,
Oh, yeah, that
he
was a good
also
one.
did a good job.
Who'd you play in Annie Mame? I've forgotten.
I played the
Oh,
boyfriend.
You played the second husband of Annie Mame, the
Yeah.
one that fell down the well or something like that.
The southern
Fell off
mountain.
the mountain.
Fell off the mountain. Yes, I do remember that.
I was a southern gentleman, and let's see.
You were
The name of my plantation in Georgia was,
What was that?
Peckerwood.
Peckerwood.
Yeah, we all thought that was funny.
And you marry Auntie Mame hastily.
Yeah.
Does Annie Mame know? Is she trying to get his money, or is it the other way around, or what kind of marriage is it? Or are they just
I think they just hit it off.
they do?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think they actually fell in
Now,
love.
I think they meet. Do they meet at Macy's when
Yeah.
she's working?
Yes.
So she doesn't have any money, but she doesn't marry him for his money. He
Okay.
just happens to have.
so it's a
money.
real connection.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was kind of like reverse when Joyce and I got together. I didn't have any money, but she had the money, and I was trying to get.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
But I was going to say we hadn't gotten to it, but my favorite
Go ahead.
part of all of it was playing King Sextimus.
In And what show was that?
Once Upon a Mattress.
Once Upon
okay.
a Mattress. Yeah.
Yes. So-
I was.
And tell him why it's your favorite.
I didn't have any speaking parts.
He had to mime
I had to,
everything.
I had to mime everything, every word I had to say. I had to do it because the witch or whatever did a spell on me and I couldn't talk. So everything I had to do it by showing my hands or mouthing
with
or
gestures.
doing this, gestures and all this, that. But that was fun. And
He also got to goose a lot of women, if I remember.
oh, that's what it was, yeah. But I remember Vivian Royal. Worrells. She played the queen.
Yeah.
Queen Aggravating.
Yes,
Aggravating
or something.
Aggravating or whatever. Anyhow, I built us a throne to use in the play. And I remember I built her a big one. I built me a little one because we were like,
Right.
because she was the boss.
Right.
And but anything at the very end, I did have a sentence to say, and she was saying that something about who can speak, do this, that, whatsoever to undermine me, whatever. And I say, as we were walking out the door, I said, I can, and I kicked her in the butt. As we walked out those doors there.
You say you can't remember your dialogue.
Yeah, I hear
Yeah,
you.
that was a cute part. But what about Little Shop of Horrors?
Oh, that was the favorite.
Well, who were you in that?
I played the plant. I was Audrey.
He was
Audrey
not
too.
He was not the voice.
I was Audrey
You were
too.
the puppeteer?
I was that.
The puppeteer.
And I can't remember the guy. He was from Garner, I believe, but he was great.
The
You
voice.
talking about the voice? Oh, but I had to play the parts of. We started out with a little hand puppet. We had to do all this behind the stage, and then we went from that to
A medium-sized
medium-sized
puppet.
one, and then the big one was enormous. It covered this whole stage with the tentacles.
Yeah.
And I had to use my hands to open when he would talk, I would have to, feed me, Seymour, that type stuff. And it was big enough to get Stephen's daddy in it.
Richard, yeah.
Yeah, because I ate him, and they'd crawl in, and we didn't have air conditioning here then, and you talking about being hot.
I know, right?
I remember I had shorts and a t-shirt on most of the time inside that plant, but it was great. It was right up my alley, I should say, but it was good.
Well,
I won a Cannon award
can't forget that.
as a what's it called?
Cameo, wasn't it?
Cameo.
Cameo.
Yeah, I think there was
And-
some bitterness over that too.
Why?
Was it John Colcom that got all upset because he lost out to the plant?
Okay.
I lost to the plant?
No, the guy that did the voice, he won it.
Yeah, it was kind of a
It
dual
was a
role.
dual
yeah.
thing. He had the voice, and I was the puppeteer. Anyhow,
But my understanding is John Colcom was nominated for a cameo that same season, and he lost to the plant.
Oh.
And he was a little bitter about it from my head. Like, this is all like hearsay, so take it for what you paid for it.
There was one year, a couple years ago, where we nominated a dog, and we were sure it was going to win, but it didn't win. Nobody fell for the ruse.
That was Bridge to Therapy.
Yeah, Bridge to Terabithia. With that dog. Anyway,
But I
moving.
can't remember. Some other theater group in the area did the same thing, and they gave their award to the plant too, and it made me laugh. I said, apparently that's the role to have if you
Well,
want.
let me tell you, it's a
Oh,
tough role.
It was tough because, like I said, that we had to. I remember we had to order the plant. It was from New York, and they had to ship it down here in a big
big
crate and whatever.
big truck.
So I had to, next door was automotive parts, David Sari's place. So it had a forklift, so we had to use that to get it out of the truck to bring it inside, and just to get the stuff out of it. It was
Massive.
oh man, you just couldn't believe
it,
it.
whatever-
it was beautiful.
Whatever happened to it?
It,
We had to send it
had
back.
to ship
We
back.
rented it, so
Oh,
it wasn't ours.
gotcha.
So,
That's an expensive
Oh,
show.
man.
yeah, when Benson did it not too long ago, they had a real hard time with their plant. They rented one, and the big plant turned out to be so hobnobbed together after so many shipped around and
I
stuff
can imagine.
that it was so heavy it was really unusable, so they had to go looking for another one, and they got one from a college down in like Wilmington or someplace, and so it worked out for him. But that's what Greg Hill says. He goes, I'm gonna make one.
He should just make one and like rent it out. He
And I
could.
tell him that about his stuff all the time, and he's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
It's
there's
like,
a business in New York. That's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
They ship them to places that are doing the show. 'Cause
Interesting.
it's massive.
there's money to be made in custom props for
Yeah,
theaters.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Bill, for taking us down memory lanes on a couple of those shows there. For the last part of our show, I'd like to talk to Joyce. Last time on the show, we talked about her introduction to the theater and her introduction to the acting part of the side. But she also serves on the board as the business manager, and she wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, Joyce, could you tell us a little bit about being the business manager here at NLT and about where some of our funding and stuff comes from?
Sure. I thought it might be interesting to your audience, our audience, to know a little bit about the business end of it. I've been business manager for so long that I can't even remember when I started, but it's been a long, long time. And my duties kind of revolve around doing the grant writing and looking for funding and just kind of keeping an eye out on things. And I like to think that between the business manager and the treasurer, who is now is Darius, and our president, who's now Mita, that we have to look, you kind of have to look beyond each individual performance and think about a season, or you think about several seasons. It's the big picture type thing. And we have places we get funds from, and then we have places we have to apply the funds. So our funds coming in come from 2 or 3 different sources. We do get grant money from we get grant money from the Arts Council through Grassroots, and if you applied all of that grant money to one show, you could probably put on a complete show from beginning to end and pay for everything for that one show. And if it was not a musical, if it was a cheaper show, it might pay for 2 or 1.5. But that's great money, and we appreciate it, and we kind of divvy it out over each performance so that each performance gets a fifth of whatever the money is that we get for that year. So that's one source. Our other source happens to be our season membership or sales of flex tickets, our advertising. It's pre-sales.
Explain to us briefly how the flex system works there, and jump in, Mita, because we've mentioned it, but we've never explained exactly how it works.
Yeah, well, we came up with the concept because we'd seen it work on other shows. Some people don't want to be season members because maybe they don't have an interest in attending every show, but they have a major interest in one show or 2 shows on the season. And we wanted to give them a way to apply tickets. There's 4 tickets to every flex book, so they could use all 4 tickets at one show or divide it up, between 2 shows or 1 per 4 shows, however they wanted to use it. Gave them a little bit more flexibility instead of having to have 1 ticket for every one of the 5 performances. It's just another way for them to get in at a lesser rate than at the door. But again, it offers them the flexibility, which is the reason you call it a flex ticket.
It also works for stocking stuffers or a birthday
Certainly.
present. So, but people would come up and go, "Can I get a gift certificate?" It's like, but this gives the option of it's 4 tickets for $48, and you can use them however you need to
Right.
use them. So, and we have season ticket holders who buy their season ticket, but then they'll get a flex book
Right.
to bring a friend with them.
Right.
So you don't
Or-
have to have a season ticket for all your buddies. You
Yeah,
can just
and
have
I
a
know,
book.
and it's nice, if you have someone who is just going to, that has a relative or someone they want to see in one show, then you could buy a book of flex tickets and you could invite 4 people, to see it. So it's worked out well. I think if people used them more, that it would even be more popular than it is, but it's a good option. So the flex tickets and the season memberships and the ad sales, that's money that we get up front, and we can apply it however we want to. And then, of course, the other source of revenue is ticket sales at the door. That goes for each individual show. So those are really our revenue spots. We have, the way that I look at it anyway, is we kind of use the flex ticket, season ticket, and ad sales, which are all your pre-sale type things. Most of that is spent on just pure upkeep of the hut. If you own a home or you own a business, you know that there is money associated with running that. So you've got your utilities and your phone, your electricity, your gas, insurance, all of the things that it takes to make a place viable beyond a production. And those are the things I think a lot of our membership and a lot of people really don't think about. That's our biggest expense. That way, if we can depend on those things paying for the upkeep of the facility, then if we have a show that we can pay for by simply the sales of the tickets at the door, then, it keeps it clean. That way you can kind of judge, is this play successful? We pay for the royalties, we pay for costuming and set design, all the things that go with the individual production. And then if we can pay for that by just tickets at the door, then we've done a good thing.
Indeed. And every good community theater needs a good business manager, and you're a big part of the reason why Neuse Little Theater is still so viable after almost 50 years. Someone with the know-how, the knowledge to really look at the financial aspects of it, because a lot of people just ignore that or just put it off, and it just builds and builds and builds until it just becomes a mess.
Right.
And that's definitely one thing we have going. Everything is pretty well managed from a monetary and financial standpoint.
We've been very blessed to have directors and producers and cast that are frugal with our money. We don't spend a lot of excess money. We don't waste anything. We reuse everything that we can. We try not to make it hard for a cast member by making them have to spend a lot of money, but if they want to spend some money, extra money on some costuming or some props or something like that, sometimes it does cost them a little bit. But this way, if a director and producer and cast can just be concerned about their show,
Yeah.
and just worry about making their shows a success, then it's up to the board and me and Mita and Darius to make sure that the organization as a whole makes money.
Someone asked me, I honestly forget who, but on the last show I directed recently, the Explorers Club, would you ever direct this again? I said, sure. If I had the exact same resources that I have with this show. Like, if I do it again, I'm not going down. It needs to be just as grand, anything, and I wouldn't, because I mean, it's still so fresh. But the point of that is I had a lot of support, and I was not worried about that aspect. All I was worried about was making the show as good as possible. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes we're like, oh, that's going to cost too much. What else can I put there? And I know Tony always does these awesome but cheap sets. Tony's always a good outside the box thinker when it comes to sets, and I think he's got something very interesting in mind for the outsiders.
That's what I gather.
Yeah, it's always something interesting. You never know until you walk through the hut stores and see the show
Right.
exactly what it's going to be.
Well, and the nice thing is, what he had in mind was going to cost us a lot, except God bless Greg Hill for being a nosy butthead that he is, because he went over and said, "Hey, what you going to do with that chain link fence?"
Yeah, Tony wanted chain link fence, and we were like, "Oh, we're gonna have to buy a bunch of chain link fence." And then Greg was just like wandering around, like, "Hey, what you doing with that there chain link fence?" And I think it was like a construction site.
They were tearing down a ballpark or
Yeah, they were
something.
talking about a municipal ballpark
That's
down
what
there
it was.
in 4042,
He said,
and
so what you plan on doing though? That and they're like throwing it away. He said, "Can't have it."
now we got a lot of chain link fence.
I'm sure we'll find it. We'll do a prison movie.
No, after we get off the air, there is a show I wanted to talk to you about, because you're also on the play reading committee and all that, quote unquote committee, and
She likes to read the script.
yeah, she's one of the ladies that reads the scripts, and I wanted to introduce you to a play that does involve chain link fence.
What I was saying was that I would dare that Fred Toole has done so much here at the hut. The heat, air conditioning, lighting, electrical. I mean, it's unbelievable how much money he has saved the Neuse Little Theater.
And truly, we have added a lot of value to this place, which was just a shell when we started using it.
Full of bird
That-
crap, from my understanding.
Yeah, but I mean, that's one reason that I feel pretty confident that we'll never be chased out.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
We'll see, because y'all mostly, I'm fairly new, but when it comes to responsibilities in the hut, you've done such a good job preserving this space.
And we've tried to keep it true to the sense of the hut, you know, without destroying anything. But yeah, I mean, it used to just be a plain floor in here. So you've got your seating, you've got your stage area, the downstairs, you know, we've renovated that. But adding bathrooms, adding heating and air conditioning, it's been a lot of value added to this building that would have never occurred
Right.
had we not.
It
been
adds value
using
to
it.
the town. when
Oh
you-
yeah,
when
I
you-
remember when I was in high school, we were talking about Sadie Hawkins Day. We used to have our Sadie Hawkins Day in high school. I graduated in 1965, so that puts me about what, 40? No, I'm sorry. But anyhow, we'd have parties and dances here in our high school, and before that, it was the other years in the 50s that this was the place for school functions, parties, proms.
Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad had their school dances here in
Yeah.
54, 55.
Wow.
But it was just one big room.
Yeah, I remember they used to, above the fireplace was I think it was an anti-tank gun or something. We had American Legion.
The American
American Legion. This was
Some vet had drug back an anti-tank gun and put it over the hut.
No, this was built in 1936 from the WPA. They put in the effect there. That's why you see all these stone walls around cemeteries and other places, like around here. This was where the government
All
gave.
part of the same.
Yeah, the government gave people jobs.
Jobs, yeah.
And this was built from that. And
And and it's a beautiful place. I mean, I would love to see it hold 200 people instead of 100 people. I mean, that would certainly make a difference in the revenue. You know, that's if there's one thing that we can't do as well as I would love to see us do it, it's musicals.
Big ones,
By
yeah.
the time you pay for royalties and scripts and musicians, there's no way you can break even
Well, and
if you sell out every seat every performance because it's just doesn't hold enough people.
Your musicals have to be small musicals if we do them here, and we have no room for an orchestra.
No.
But no, we don't have a pit, so there's nowhere to put orchestra unless we put them in the back. And then there's complaining because they can't see, or we put them on stage and then they overpower the singers, or we put them down in that corner and nobody on the left side of the building can't hear anything. And so we've had our struggles, but
But it's great to be known as a theater that just doesn't do all musicals or all comedy. We certainly do offer a variety of shows.
We sure do.
that is one of the things I'm proud of, is the fact that we don't.
We're not cookie cutter.
Comedies are crowd pleasers, musicals are crowd pleasers, but you need a palate cleanser every so often. You can't. I tell people all the time, you can't have an entire diet on cotton candy. You have to have some meat to things, and so we do one or two shows that are really kind of gritty every year. So
You do your rabbit holes, you do your ordinary people,
Yeah.
Exactly.
your Veronica's Room.
Oh, yeah. I'd like to
Yeah.
do that one again.
I've got again, one of my suggestions is along that alley, but we're gonna have to put a pin in it there. Thank you, Bill, for stopping by, for coming by and tell us your experiences on Neuse Little Podcast.
Oh, I've got a lot more I can say, but maybe next time
In a future episode,
you want to fill an empty space. Give me a holler and I can fill your empty space.
give him plenty of time. He'll write it up. So
I
he
don't think we'll ever have a good ending line as that. So I don't want anyone. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce, for coming in today.
Certainly.
And we appreciate both of you being on Neuse Little Podcast. And we'll see you later. Credits for the show. Your host and creator is Matt Gore. That's me. My producer and editor is Mita Toole.
That's me.
Music is by Cody Walker. Please go look up Cody on Cody Walker Music on YouTube, and he's also on Cody Walker Music on Facebook as well. He's local, so and he's got a couple of albums out. Easy listening, John Denver type of guitar voice. That Cody Walker. All right, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye bye.